it's Laura with Following the Paper Trail, and it's What's Up Wednesday. Haha, April Fools. It's actually Thursday. I wasn't able to get the What's Up Wednesday project up yesterday, which was Wednesday. My son has needed some extra time and attention from Mom these last couple weeks, and so I've gotten a little bit behind, but I am getting it up here today. I did give you a sneak peek on my blog, and I said you're going to be surprised when you found out what this was made out of. This is actually a cover of a mini that I'm working on, and actually next Wednesday I think I'll be showing you what the inside of the mini is going to start looking like. And you'll probably never be able to guess what the material is to make these tiles as well as the butterflies. And you'll be surprised to know that it's actually fun foam. That thin foam stuff that you can get at craft stores, Walmart, Fred Meyer's, you know, any of those kinds of places. In the kids section, they have it die cut in all sorts of different shapes and comes in about a gajillion different colors. But you can have a ton of fun with it. With this project, I used two different techniques to make the tiles back behind the butterflies. It is a heat embossed stamping method to make, as you can see with the texture on them, it actually is an embossed texture onto the foam. And then I've used just typical embossing here to make the butterflies. So let me show you how I do this. You're going to be cutting your foam. I've cut them into 2-inch pieces. I have found when heating them up, it's easier to get a nice even texture or an even heating to the foam, because we're going to heat it up, and immediately while it's still warm, I'm going to stamp it. Now I'm using this Stampendous block of different kind of tile-like shapes. Really cool. I love this one. I originally got this one and have done some silver clay jewelry with it, and I just love this stamp. But it works perfect to create kind of these ceramic looking tiles. After I stamp them, I'm going to use some metallic dauber paints in order to add some color to bring out the texture and relief. So let me first off start out with heating it up with your heat tool. Now you might have to experiment around a little bit to find out just how long you need to heat it up in that, depending on your heat tool. What I found is it kind of arches up, and when it flattens back down, it's heated nicely. You're going to want to heat it up pretty evenly. Keep your heat gun moving while you're heating it. And then as soon as you stop, you're going to go ahead and stamp whatever image it is that you're going to want to stamp. So let me go ahead and do that. See how it's kind of arching up? You probably want to do this in a well-ventilated room too. I don't really notice any smell coming off of it, but I'm sure heating up anything that's man-made is probably not great for you. So I just keep heating it up, and then it kind of flattens down. See how it kind of flattens back down again? So then I stop and immediately, and really give it some good push down. Make sure it's really stamped in there nicely. And see how it gives you that kind of embossed texture? Well, I want to bring that texture out, and so that's where I use the daubers. Make sure it's got paint coming out in it. And then really lightly, I'm really not using any pressure, I'm just kind of rubbing it over the top. I generally kind of go in a circular motion, because you're mainly wanting to hit the raised areas. I'm just kind of very lightly, just barely any pressure, just enough that it just brings the color onto that raised area. So I did a little bit of gold. I'm going to add a little copper on top of it just to give it some warm metallic tones. On my sample that I've got here, I did 9 total tiles. 3 of them are in gold, 3 are in copper, and 3 are in silver. So once I've done this, then what I've done is I've also then sprayed them with some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist, and I use iridescent gold and tarnished brass as the 2 colors that I used on here. Now I just let those dry on their own, which is for me killing me, because I don't like to wait, but I don't want to heat it up again, because what happens with this stuff, if you don't like how the image stamps, you can heat it up again and it's like it erases it and you can restamp it again. So if it doesn't stamp the way you want it to. Now this is done on the black. Here's some other ones that I've done on the black. Here's another stamp that I use. I've also stamped onto the white. Here I just use some butterflies. These are with the clear stamp, so the clear stamps work as well. And here I've taken some of my Tim Holtz Distress inks with my daubers, and then I've just added some color with my daubers. Again, just doing it really lightly, tend to go in a circular motion, and I've added some color to these, and that's again with the white foam. It comes in a ton of different colors. In order to make this cover, I cut my squares at the 2 inches, but then I trim them down by about 1/8 of an inch off of each side. That way, if there was an edge like this edge, I don't really like this edge as much, I would trim that off. And this allows for kind of grout lines here. So on these grout lines, I've attached these down to the piece of black chipboard. I've attached them down, and then I use some of this 3D paint, the Scribbles 3D paint, and kind of use that kind of as a grout in between the tiles. After I had that in, it was a little bit too shiny for me, so while it was still wet, I added some Crystal Fine glitter from Martha Stewart to it. That gave it a little bit extra sparkle, and it also just kind of toned down the grout, so it wasn't, because it was really popping out being really shiny. So it's not as shiny, but it has that sparkle to it. So it really does look like grout between tiles. Because these are foam, this thing weighs next to nothing, and yet it looks almost like metallic or ceramic tiles. Then to make the butterflies, they have a cool texture on them, and that comes from using the Tim Holtz Distress embossing powder versus just regular embossing powder. And so I've been calling these my little stone butterflies. So I'm going to do one of them on the white and use my Tim Holtz Distress ink. And where is my stamp? Oh, there it is. This desk is an absolute mess. So I just stamp that onto the foam. I'm going to put this down so that I can then pour my powder. I'll clean this all up later. So then I'm going to use my piercing tool to kind of hold it in place. And this stuff darkens up a lot. So then once it cools completely, then as you know, when you're using Tim Holtz Distress, it has some release crystal that gives it that distress look, so then you can rub those away. Then I just used some sharp snips and trimmed it out. Now with this white background one, what I'm probably going to end up doing is taking daubers of with some Tim Holtz Distress inks, seeing how I can add some color into that background. Doesn't matter if it goes to the outside because I'm going to be trimming it, but I can just add some color. Maybe I'll throw some brown in there just because these daubers are handy. So then I can just trim it out. Oops, my son just got home from school. So then I can just trim it out, and then I've adhered them then to this tile cover, and then I just took some stickles, some iridescent stickles, and added some sparkle and such to the butterflies. This butterfly I did with a white embossing powder, and then I just took some Distress ink and just toned it down a little bit, because otherwise it was like, hello, I'm the white butterfly. But it's going to be a really fun cover, fun to play with. Again, the fun foam, super cheap, comes in all sorts of different sizes of sheets and that sort of thing. And break out your rubber stamps, give it a rubber stamp embossing onto fun foam. Doesn't look like foam. So anyway, have fun with it, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a bunch.